domain. It's quite different from the old one. It's very open. You can reach any office from any place. You don't have to wait for somebody to open the door and get into the inner sanctum and wait for somebody to come out from the holiest of holiest to escort you around. It's very open. And so I took my own tour in the prescribed donut. And the innovation there is what impressed me most, because it's built for everybody that is a deep thinker. You can zigzag, you can pace, you can climb up stairs and sit awkwardly, you can, wherever you do your best thinking, you can do it. And they've got big screens where everybody can huddle around and collaborative solve problems and think grand thoughts of how to do things. And you gotta see it. It's amazing.
I just want to mention that the gala this last week was absolutely stupendous, and the honorees. And I don't know if we have veterans still here, but the young woman a veteran who was recognized as one of the honorees, her story was so absolutely touching. And John Cadet, who is Dean of Fine Arts, was the Master of Ceremonies, and he utilized the choir and singers for kind of bookends for that, and that was just lovely. I just want to mention I happened to go to KCD, which is the public television station in Costa Mesa, and for an event to feature a documentary that is just coming out on human voices, and that's colossal. And I happened to run into a woman there who, when she heard Fullerton, she said, "Oh, I'm from Fullerton." It was Julie Davy, who retired from Fullerton College, and she was the staff person for the Harnett newspaper, which got an award in 2006. And they beat out Columbia University and Rutgers. And these were students, many of them who had never flown in an airplane before, who were probably not dressed to the hilt. But so thrilled to receive the #1 acknowledgement and prize in 2006. And you might be interested to know what Julie Davy is now doing. She does a writing for wellness, a prescription for healing, and she's doing this at the Marine base, and they don't call it writing for wellness, they call it writing for strength, because that fits their modus operandi a little bit better. And she also does it at Hope, the hospital in Los Angeles, helping people write through different situations. The only other thing I want to mention, and this is such a gorgeous poster, but Fullerton College is having an opening of Black American art this Thursday night. And Carol Henke is knows the collector of a lot of this art. And so it is really a very unusual exhibit, 5 to 7, and it fits right in, I think, with Day of the Dead and all your other festivities. That's it.
Okay, I attended about a week and a half ago an event for Cypress College Foundation I wanted to talk about, and it was a very nice event. We ended up going to a play at the theater, and it had a little bit of musical numbers and dance numbers, but it was mostly solid acting, and it was just unbelievable. It's called The American Clock by Arthur Miller, and the students just did an incredible job. It's all about the Great Depression. And it was very complex, a lot of characters, and the students, I thought, just completely nailed it in their performance. And afterwards, we got a chance to do a question and answer session with them and talk about the Great Depression, which was a lot of fun as well. Other than that, I attended the President's Gala for the Fullerton College Foundation, and that was an outstanding event as well. Everything about it, I thought, was phenomenal. The silent auction was a lot of fun, and the food was incredible. The students sang, the student choir sang West Side Story songs for us, and it was just incredible. So. Those are my 2 events that I've attended, and I wanted to mention them. So thank you very much.
2 quick things. First of all, there's a very nice article in the Event News Enterprise about Cypress College award of $2.8 million Title V grant. I know wanted on our agenda tonight was the acceptance of that. And I would certainly like to extend a very sincere thanks to all the people that put together that grant. It's really nice. We don't often see $2.8 million come our way. And I know that the focus of it is on guided pathways and student success, so it's very opportune. And the other announcement that I had, we also approved today on the agenda several different curriculum course updates, and several of them had to do with looking at new textbooks. And so I just wanted to make public that the State Academic Senate has a special subcommittee, special group that is a task force that's looking into open educational resources. And they have a variety of different webinars and different taped webinars and things like that. So I certainly would encourage.
I have just short brief comments. Sorry. I want to thank the board for attending the President's Gala this last weekend. We were able to fundraise close to $56,000. So slowly but surely, as the years progress, we're hoping to increase that amount.
I'm still sure that when you sold me the raffle ticket, you guaranteed I was going to win.
I myself shocked. I too invested in those raffle tickets.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item 2A, approval of minutes of the regular meeting of October 8th, 2019. Are there any corrections or additions to the meeting? We have the motion for approval of minutes.
I'll move approval. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Is there a need for a closed session at this point?
No, we have no way out tonight.
All right. Moving ahead, agenda item 3A. We'll have a public hearing regarding a dedication of an easement to Southern California Edison. I'll declare the public hearing open. Is there any information to present on this? Brad, anybody? No? Any comments from the public? Do we have a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, public hearing is closed. Now, do we have a motion to adopt the resolution authorizing the easement?
So moved.
Molly, seconded by Jackie. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 3B. Okay, this is to receive comments from the public on the, receive comments from the public on the reopening proposal submitted by adjunct faculty. Are there any comments on that? Okay. Yes, sir.
Can I just ask the staff to briefly say a few words about each of these items? Because I'm not sure the public, if they were interested in this, would really understand what exactly the proposal is. So just a few words about what the issue is with respect to the evaluation and student running out, how the issue is with respect to office hours.
Sure. Under Article 9 evaluation, under accreditation, it requires student learning outcomes and adjunct faculty evaluations. And so we're opening more articles to have that conversation. And then office hours, currently this is something that both the district and the union want to open to the conversation of how we compensate office hours for adjuncts. Right now there's basically a formula that's for every 50 minutes, it's a 10-minute office hour passing time. So this is something that both groups want to have a discussion about.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the district's reopening?
So
Second.
did you close the vote?
Oh, did I not do that? Okay. Then do we have a motion to close the hearing?
Second.
All in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Opposed? And the hearing is closed. Now, do we have a motion to adopt the district's proposal? further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Okay, item 3C, public hearing regarding the Fullerton College Sherbeck Field Environmental Impact Report. Before we get into this, we want to make clear, this is an information item to receive the results of the final environmental impact report. There is nothing being voted on tonight. There are no decisions being made tonight regarding this. This is strictly an information about what the final environmental impact report found and shows. So, let's see. So, we'll declare the public hearing open. Will you start with a presentation? Is that right, Dr. Schultz? Yes, that's right.
Good evening, members of the board, resource table, and members in the audience, both community members and campus constituents. It's our pleasure tonight to present an overview of the final environmental impact report for the proposed Sherbeck Field Improvements Project. This evening, I'll begin the presentation and offer some initial background of the proposed project, and I'll be inviting a number of experts with us, both consulting teams, an area of expertise, and also college staff. And so as each speaker comes forward, we'll introduce the next speaker. So first, let me provide a brief background on the project. So Sherbeck Field was originally constructed in 1956. In 1992, it was renamed after Coach Hal Sherbeck from Fullerton College. And more recently, in 2010, the field house, existing turf, and rubberized track surface were constructed. Some current day uses of Sherbeck Field include intercollegiate athletic courses. Some examples include track and field, cross country, football, and soccer. We also offer fitness courses on that surface. Those classes are offered on weekdays only currently, in both mornings, afternoon, and evenings. The earliest classes currently begin at about 6:20 a.m. on the track. Classes can end as late as 7:05 p.m. That's typically in the spring when the sunlight lasts a little bit longer. Currently, we don't have the lights. And the course sizes typically range from 24 to 32 students per class. I want to talk a little bit about rentals and the rental practice to date. Sherbeck Field is rented out at various times around classes, on both weekdays and also sometimes Saturdays and Sundays. Private schools, other schools, and third-party organizations will at times host athletic practices and events. Some examples of schools or entities who have leased space at the field include Hope International University, Rosary High School, Troy High School, Orange Lutheran High School, and soccer clubs such as the CDA Slammers, Anaheim Soccer, Seabright Soccer, Cal South. Prep Football America Camp has occasionally held camps there, and also the Buena Park Police Department has used the field 3 times per year for training purposes. In addition to events, well, the biggest event we have is commencement. That occurs in late May. It's held on Saturday. Typically it begins at 9:30 a.m. Organizing the students for the ceremony begins around 7:30 or 8 a.m. and lasts till 9:30. Typically the ceremony concludes by noon, with the families and students gathering on the quad portion of the campus until early afternoon. There are approximately, at that event, when we add up the total number of students, faculty and staff, and families and friends, last year it was approximately 8,000 guests on the campus for that event. So I just want to touch on the project objectives, which are described in section 3.5.3. These including providing a field for the Fullerton College football program that meets the 3C2A and NCAA standards and requirements. A project that could provide field lighting, provide opportunity for evening classes, including press box and storage, as well as install permanent bleachers, which could also help reduce the rentals for commencement. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Leanne Jones with DLR Group.
Members of the board, my name is Leanne Jones. I'm a principal in charge with DLR Group. We're the architects that have been working with the college to help them identify the various aspects of the improvements to the field. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of statistics around what's being shown in the current proposed project. There are 4,417 seats being shown. There are 2,861 on the home side, 1,556 on the visitor side. The lighting, which you'll hear a little bit more about from some of our experts, the lights on the home side are 120 feet high. On the visitor side, they're 100 feet high. In the end zone, they're 60 feet high. The storage building to the top of the roof is 14 feet. The press box is 29 feet. The top of the bleachers on the guardrail on the home side is at 21 feet, and on the visitor side is 14 feet. And the speakers are at 36 feet. So that's just a few of the statistics around that. So now I'm going to introduce Rachel Struglia from DUDEC to talk more about the CEQA process.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. My name is Rachel Struglia, and I'm with the environmental consulting firm DUDEC that's been assisting the district and the college with the environmental impact report for the Sherbeck Field Improvements Project. I just want to give a brief overview of the CEQA process. There were multiple opportunities for public input. We started off with a 30-day public review for the Notice of Preparation and Initial Study in April of 2018 to May of 2018. And during that period, we also held a scoping meeting that had a number of attendees, and we broke out into a small group, I think, sessions, if you would call it that, around certain topical areas. I know some of the board members were there, you may recall. We received about 60 comment letters, plus the comments that were recorded during the scoping meeting and are included in the back of the draft EIR. Then we prepared a draft EIR and had a 45-day public review period from May 15th to June 28th, 2019, and we also received about 66 comment letters, about the same numbers during the NOP comment period. And a commonality of both the NOP comment period and the draft EIR was a focus on lighting, glare, traffic, and noise. Those were the primary concerns coming from the public. We then took those comments and compiled them into the final EIR, which included a number of revisions to the project that I'll go over tonight, as well as written comments to those letters. The responses to the public agency comments went back to those agencies. We had 4 agency commenters, most notably the City of Fullerton, who has been very interested in the progress on this project. So let me move on and just kind of summarize for you the CEQA findings. The majority of the findings fell in the no impact or less than significant impact category. You can see the majority of those, probably most notable were lighting, and we're going to have more tonight on that topic. Agriculture and forestry, air quality, biology, cultural resources, energy consumption, geology, greenhouse gas emissions, mineral resources, population and housing, public services, hydrology and water quality, and wildfire. We did have some impacts that require mitigation. Those fell in the realm of hazards and hazardous materials, tribal cultural resources and utilities. And then we do have some significant and unavoidable impacts related to the project, and those are noise, recreation, and traffic. I think there was a question from someone as to what is the traffic or the recreation impact, and I want to make a note about that because the way the CEQA checklist is worded is it says, does the project include recreational facilities or require the construction or expansion of recreational facilities which might have an physical effect on the environment? And because we have noise impacts and traffic impacts, it also becomes a recreational impact. So we sort of group it all together, get together there with recreation. But it isn't a new recreational impact, it's noise and traffic. think it's important to focus on some of the project commitments that have come out of public comment, have come to the district and the college for consideration, and the commitment that the college is going to make with regard to this project. And I want to go over these, and I want to cover some of the additions to the mitigation measures that were circulated as part of the draft EIR. So there's a commitment that there will be no football games played at the field on Friday evenings. There will be no high school football games. There will be no field lighting for any outside groups on Saturdays and Sundays. There will be no rentals for musical performances or concerts by outside groups. Outside groups that are going to use the field will not be able to bring any public address systems or sound amplification systems. And the speaker system would not exceed 91 decibels on the field at any events. In addition, there were some additions to the mitigation measures that were in the EIR. And I want to first focus on aesthetics and bring to your attention that there were 3 new project design features added to address public comments. And this was PDF AES 1, which is focused on the NCAA best lighting practices and keeping the field lighting restricted to those standards. PDF AES 2 talks about hooded and downward directed light fixtures, which is a design feature of the project. And PDF AES 3, which establishes a lighting curfew similar to the lighting curfew at other public parks within the city of Fullerton. With regard to noise mitigation, there was language added to existing measures, which adds compliance with the city's noise control ordinance during construction. And just to share with you what that is, it is conducting construction of the field improvements during Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. No construction activities will occur on Sundays or on city-recognized holidays, and that's consistent with the municipal code. In addition, MMNOI 2 restricts rentals, again, no PA systems for rentals, and that establishes that this will be enforced by the district through the rental agreements. With regard to traffic mitigation measures, these were strengthened to reflect more coordination with the city on the construction management plan and the traffic management plan in direct response to public comment. I'm now going to turn it over to John Zeman from Metaclass & Associates. He's going to cover noise specifically.
Hello, my name is John Zeman, and good evening to all of you. I'm an associate principal at Metaclass & Associates. We are a 72-year-old acoustical firm based out of Santa Monica. We are one of the world's largest dedicated acoustical firms handling noise and vibration mitigation. We are here to speak about noise on the project, specifically things of the PA nature, construction noise. We did look at and help the team with these items. Construction noise was found to be a very standard item that can be mitigated with nothing more than really an 8-foot barrier that is temporary, of course, observing the time constraints based by the city for when construction can occur. The operational noise, specifically due to the public address system, we modeled that utilizing a specialty software called Predictor. It is made by a Danish company named Rule & Care, and we utilized the worst case scenarios to kind of help give us a threshold to not exceed. So we wanted to model the full packed house, even though typically it may not have the full capacity at all times. But we wanted to look at that noise level from the full stadium to understand, okay, where do we want to expect that this is the worst it's ever going to be, so we can mitigate to that. We don't want to try and cut corners and be like, well, it might be quieter than normal, so we'll design to that. We wanted to design to the worst so we could have the best mitigation possible. We also utilized the lowest measured, because we did on-site measurements for midweek for about 3 days, and we wanted to utilize the lowest ambient noise, things from traffic, both ground and air, fire, sirens, things like that. We wanted to utilize the lowest level of that, of course, because as it gets louder, it tends to obscure the noise that the field may generate. So we wanted to utilize the lowest ambient noise levels, again, to kind of help punish ourselves, I guess, if you will, so we can give better mitigation. And these are kind of the very, very quick results of that at about 4,200 spectators at full house, you would see a range increase of about 7 to 13 decibels, anywhere from about 69 to 76 dBA. To put that quantitatively down at the bottom and give you a little cheat sheet. 60 dBA is about how loud average human speech is, can range anywhere from about 60 to 66 dBA, about 3 feet. 65 dBA is what we measured on average along Berkeley Avenue. So as you can see, it kind of blends in a lot right with that 65. And then 70 dBA is about your average household vacuum cleaner. So just to kind of help put these numbers in some sort of metric that we all kind of are a little familiar with. And then we also modeled typical conditions that we would expect. So maybe about 1,500 spectators, maybe up to 2,000 during a playoff game for football. So you can see it's 1,500, about 3 to 7 dB of an increase, or 2,000 to about 4 to 8. And again, right below that, a little cheat sheet. So that's just kind of what you can anticipate what that difference is from usages of the field. And then from here, I really want to turn this over to Dan Close to talk about traffic. So thank you.
Okay, good evening. I'm Dan Close. I'm an associate principal with Linscott Law and Greenspan Engineers, and I'm going to be the traffic consultant for the project, so I'll be going over the traffic slides. So the traffic impact analysis evaluated 31 key study intersections. The TIA focused to an existing plus project, a year 2020 and a year 2030 traffic condition. And the TIA focused to weekday academic instruction. We also looked at a Friday event analysis and a Saturday event analysis at the field. It's important to note the Friday event analysis was conducted in response to a City of Fullerton NOP comment that wanted to know an evaluation of a worst case scenario with an event at Fullerton High School as well as an event at the field. This slide presents the results of the weekday academic instruction. So what this figure shows is the general study area that we looked at, and there's one intersection that is highlighted in yellow, which is intersection 14. But to briefly go over the findings of the academic instruction, there were 0 existing plus project impacts, 0 2020 plus project impacts, and there was 1 year 2030 impact that's shown at intersection 14, which is the SR 57 northbound ramp at Chapman Avenue. And it's important to note that this impact is considered a cumulative impact, and the definition of a cumulative impact is a location where the level of service will operate at an unacceptable level of service without and with the project. So this is considered a cumulative impact under weekday academic instruction. Okay, the next slide summarizes the traffic impacts associated with the Friday field event. This analysis revealed that there were 4 direct existing plus project impacts, and there were also 4 direct year 2020 plus project impacts. And the locations consisted of the yellow highlighted intersections. First location is intersection 4, which is Lemon Street at Berkeley Avenue. The second one is number 27, which is Lemon Street at Fullerton College Drive. And then the third impact was at the intersection 28, which is Berkeley Avenue at College Driveway number 1. And then the last intersection was number 29, which is Berkeley Avenue at College Driveway number 2. Now it's important to note that these are direct impacts, and the definition of a direct impact means that without the project, these locations are operating at an acceptable level of service. And when you add the field component to the locations, there's an unacceptable level of service. It's important to note that improvements were identified at these locations to offset the project impacts. The improvements at these locations consisted of a traffic management plan. The traffic management plan will consist of various components. The first component would be police department staff at the location to manage traffic flow and also to monitor congestion and or queues at the location. Police department staff may utilize traffic cones, delineators, or programmable changeable message signs to kind of help manage those locations. And it's important to note that the TMP, or traffic management plan, is subject to the approval of the City of Fullerton. So City of Fullerton and staff will be involved with implementation of that plan. Okay, the next slide summarizes the Saturday field event impacts. And as you can see on the figure, there are 4 locations. Under existing plus project, there were 3 direct impacts. Under year 2020 plus project, there were 3 direct impacts as well. And then under year 2030 plus project, there were 4 direct impacts. And again, direct impact implies that the location is operating acceptable without the project, and with the project, we have an unacceptable level of service. The recommendations of improvements at these locations also offsets the impact of the project. Consistent with the Friday analysis of the recommendations of traffic management plan at intersections 4, 28, and 29, which are 11th Street at Berkeley, and then the 2 driveways north and south of the field. The recommended improvement at intersection number 12, which is State College at Chapman, consists of a second westbound left at the intersection. And again, the TMP improvements are subject to the approval of the City of Fullerton. So that concludes my summary, and now I'll introduce Mike with Musco.
Good evening, my name is Mike Marchetti with Musco Sports Lighting. Musco Sports Lighting, we're a family-owned business, about 1,200 employees worldwide, based out of Oskaloosa, Muscatine, Iowa. Been around for, under current ownership, for about 45 years. I've been with the company for 23 years. We focus on sports and large area lighting. Last 10 years, the majority of our research and development has been into the LED light source. Talking specifically about this project and some of the design. We're utilizing 4 poles to light the field. We have 2 120-foot poles and 2 100-foot poles, and then at the apexes of the track we have 2 60-foot poles. Those poles are used to light the corners of the track. The 4 bigger poles are primarily lighting the field. The lighting design is for 50-foot candles on the field, 30-foot candles on the track. That's consistent with the minimum recommended practices for intercollegiate athletics. The pole heights themselves are really how we control light. There's a few different elements that go into it. It's the photometry of the light fixture, how we capture that light energy, create a beam, and spit it out to the field. With the internal reflectors and external visors, which help block line of sight to the light source from off-site properties. The other way we control light is by our aiming angles of our light fixtures. So generally speaking, the more downward you can aim that light, the less impact it's going to have off-site. So that means the taller we go on poles, the more downward we can aim those lights. As those poles get further away from the field, we have to go taller to get them down. That's why the pole heights vary from one side to the other. On one side of the stadium, the poles are a little bit farther from the field than the other side. The analysis that was run on the surrounding properties in all directions take into account grade elevation changes from field level to the street level, and also it's a worst case scenario, so we assume no blockage of light from trees, walls, fences, anything like that. So it's actually a worst case scenario for us. Lighting controls. As far as on-off, there's control systems that are set in place where the college can set hard curfews where the lights turn off if there's a hard curfew requirement, and that lights turn off at that time. That's about it. The light source is LED that we're using. It is roughly 50 to 60% more efficient than the previous light source that was used in athletic field lighting, which is called metal halide. Some of the other benefits are instant on-off capabilities, the ability to dim that fixture, and then a much longer life minimizing any type of maintenance. And I'd like to bring Rachel back up.
Before you go, if I can just clarify one thing. Does that picture represent the amount of spillover, or is it just a kind of a generalized graphic of what a field that's lighter looks like?
I didn't put this graphic together, so I don't know if it was accurate to the photometry of the fixture or if it's general.
I'm seeing a lot of zeros in your graphic.
Yeah,
is that the amount of spillover?
Correct. Yes. So there's spill scans that were run along the residential properties.
So we prepared that rendering, and that rendering was not done based on the actual photometrics. It's more of an artistic rendering, so it's not exact per the numbers that are shown on the plan.
So the numbers would actually be the accurate.
Correct.
Thank you.
So CEQA requires that an alternatives analysis is done on the project, and a no project is required by CEQA. A no project alternative in this case is the continued use of the Yorba Linda High School field for the project. So we looked at that in the EIR. We also looked at a reduced project of 2,000 seats, and driven also by public comment was the desire to have the EIR take a look at a alternative site location at Cal State University Fullerton down the road and Fullerton Union High School. Just want to cover a little bit about each alternative. First of all, there has been coordination between the college and CSUF Fullerton, or I should say CSU Fullerton, specifically with regard to renting their field. And it has turned out that the rental, and particularly if there are any damages to their field because it is used for soccer, are cost prohibitive. A very, very high cost to repair the field, and they really discourage football on their field. So that is a big disadvantage to using that alternative in that location. Both Yorba Linda High School and the Fullerton Union High School alternatives don't meet the sizing requirements of the California Community College Athletic Association bylaw 4.26a. They also don't allow lighting for more evening classes to occur here at the college for the physical education program. They would not allow the installation of permanent bleachers for Fullerton College to host regular and playoff football games, and also does not reduce the costs associated with bleacher rental for the college commencement ceremony every year. They also considered a reduced project of 2,000 seats, and this is a project that partially meets some of the objectives. It does provide a field that could meet those sizing requirements for field posts and line sizing. It would provide field lighting. It could provide the opportunity for evening classes and a press box and a storage building. It doesn't really go very far in providing those permanent bleachers for the hosting of football games. It could meet the full size needs of the college, and it doesn't really reduce the cost of commencement ceremony bleacher rental. I also think it's important to mention that it does not eliminate significant traffic and noise impacts of the project. While it reduces those impacts, it does not eliminate them. So I think that's important to consider. And that concludes the presentation. Thank you.
A question for the board. This is a public hearing. I'm thinking it's probably appropriate to ask for public comments before we ask our questions. Does that mean consensus, or would you rather have the board get our questions answered and then have public comments? Okay. Okay. We'll go to public comments. Again, to review, what we're dealing with is the results of the final EIR. There's no decision being made about any project. There's no vote being taken. The board guidelines for public comments, we have 3 minutes per speaker, a total of 20 minutes per topic. That can be extended at the board's discretion. What I will do is call people in the order the way I have your cards. I will give 2 names, the person who is being called up and also the next person in line to hopefully have that person be ready. I will be timing. When you get to 3 minutes, I will indicate that, and I will ask that you then stop at that point, because we do have quite a few people wanting to speak. So, first there will be Nick Fuscardo, followed by Mark Pavlovich. Nick is certainly deserving of applause, but we're trying to be as efficient as possible, and that, we'll just extend the time between speakers. So, Nick, your time begins.
Without starting the clock yet, all these folks out there know that 3 minutes for me is like, what the heck? So, thank you very much for allowing us to come up and speak as we are. I am a member of the North Orange County Community College District, Fullerton, for over half a century, so I've been here for quite a while. Real quick story, I really found out the pulse and the people of Fullerton on the first night that I drove into Fullerton down Harbor Boulevard with my new wife, into our apartment, had a flat tire, pulled into a station, grabbed a couple suitcases, ran up, came down the next day because it was my first day of football coaching at Troy High School. And the man there, his name was Mr. Jeffries, and I said, that's my car, can you fix my tire? He said, I can. I said, how fast? I got to go to practice. He said, take that brown car over there, come on back when you're done. I knew at that time that the city of Fullerton was perfect for me. I just loved the fact that it was so kind, and told my wife, we're in the right place. First of all, our track is used by the community. A lot of times they disregard what we want them to do, but Fullerton, Cal State Fullerton, Fullerton High School closed their place off. We are accommodating to the people of Fullerton to use our track. We need a football facility because for a number of reasons. In my estimation, I was there when we had 26,000 people at Anaheim Stadium. Fullerton College has always been a premier program in the United States, the oldest junior college in America, and I've been here for every year. I just get anyway. But we have we use income by even going up on buses. Camaraderie is not a thing you want to do. I like to see the fact that we have a football stadium where we can bring the community in. I have some ideas that they're pretty appropriate for banding our groups together, our community together. Carnival on Saturday, for a football game, and just include the whole family, the whole community. I'd like to see that happen. In reality, folks, we're going to play 5-game schedule. We play 10 games in a season, 5 are home, 5 are on the road. So we're home 5 days. I don't think that's too overwhelming, for us to do. And then by the way, the traffic thing in Lemon Street is like, it's not always Fullerton College students, as you guys are all aware. The people are dodging the freeway coming up there, and so as far as the people that complained about trash and whatnot, we don't acknowledge, we don't make that happen. We don't ask that to happen, and that's up to you guys, mom and dad. Dinner table, let's go. Take care, respect property and whatnot. So. I know that Dr. Schultz and all the people at Fullerton College are really aware of what your needs are, but all that stuff starts at home. We got to stop enabling kids. Let's see, new parking structures going up. That's going to help out a lot. Let's see, and as far as the noise, I coached baseball there for a number of years. And how many?
That was 3.
Okay, I just coached baseball there for a number of years, and a lady called up one day, called Campus Safety, and said, hey, you're playing that national anthem too loud. Seriously? Now, my dad served in the war. My family served in the war. And I just say, we're aware of what your noise deals are. So thank you very much and appreciate it.
Thank you. Mark Tavlovich, followed by Pam Williams.
For people that know us, Nick Buscardo than me, that's a mouthful in one night. I mean, we could do an hour. I'm Mark Pavlovich with sports@usa.net. I got part of my group back there. We're broadcasters, and when we talk about stadiums and environmental impact report, we're talking about home, we're talking about a house for a team. We've had the pleasure, and I've had the pleasure, my partner and I have broadcast for the last 19 years. We have seen every stadium you can see in Southern California. We've gone up to Northern California and done games also, so we've seen many there. And also Corey and I have traveled back to Tennessee to do basketball in arenas. So we have seen the homes of many of the schools where they have stadiums. The one thing that I never hear from anybody in my 19 years of doing this and my thousands of stadiums I've visited, I've never run into anybody that looks at me and says, what an eyesore. Why is that there? How does it, I mean, it doesn't fit into my neighborhood. It doesn't work. We have noise. Never has anybody ever walked up to us. And for anybody that knows me like the people in the audience do, like my partner does, I'll talk to anybody. Like Greg knows, I'll talk to anybody about anything, especially about sports. So when we look at the environmental impact report, it's something that I've seen over the years that I've done as a professional volunteer. I've gone out and done college sports for fun, not to get paid. I make no money at this. And I've seen the people that have come there, that have sat there, be it my age, the old guy, or a little child sitting with his dad, like I've got in the back of the room. Just went to Bakersfield. Had the pleasure of going to the Bakersfield game and watching people of a variety of ages have some place to go to watch their home team. That's what this environmental impact report is about, a home. Someplace that I can go as a Fullerton fan to go watch my team. Not ruining neighborhoods, not causing any problems, is what you've got here. And when you look at these environmental impact reports, you have to realize that those individuals or that traffic that's coming there, there's somebody smiling that's sitting in that traffic because they want to come to that game. There's somebody that's happy that they got to see an athletic event for $5.95 that night with their great-grandson, their grandson, their granddaughters, their cousins, and their nephews. I've seen it for 19 years at multiple stadiums. Not one, not two, not just here in Fullerton, but throughout California. So when we step back, when we look at the environmental impact report, it's more than what you saw at the board tonight. It's expanded beyond that. It's the fans that come out. Does it enhance the neighborhood? In my opinion, yes. I've seen that all over. And yet, if I ever walked into anybody that says the worst thing that could ever happen, well, I can tell you back in the old days, because I grew up in Anaheim, everybody sort of went, oh, please, no Anaheim Stadium, no baseball team. But that's what happened. So take a different look when you look at this from the environmental impact reports. Thank you.
Pam Williams, followed by Garrett Campbell.
Hello. I live just north of the college, but I'm actually reading a statement from a friend of ours who couldn't make it tonight. I will just read it word for word. Dear board members, I am Jeff Malstead, class of 1986. I am an advocate for the stadium simply because it is the right thing to do. I am writing to you as you are the controlling body, voted in by your constituents, empowered to make decisions which will improve, benefit, and preserve the integrity of the many institutions governed by the district. In 2014, I retired from the city of Santa Fe Springs, where I managed community service park programs for 25 years. During my years of service, I witnessed many ideas come and go. A great many of these ideas, staff truly believed would positively benefit the city as a whole. Although many of these ideas seem to be slam dunks, frequently, the minority group representing those against the respective idea would get council support virtually stymie a motion or a vote simply because council would cave, not wanting to stand up to the minority. The minority squeaky wheel represents constituents, and that equals votes. Their tactics and narrow-mindedness is not new, Don't let them bully you into a vote benefiting their personal agenda. Please remember, many times these same naysayers purchased their home adjacent to or near an existing public facility. Now they want to dictate what happens on the public facility. Their personal agenda does not outweigh what is in the best interest of the current and future students of Fullerton College. I ask for your indulgence, and please ask yourself, does this project make financial sense to this institution? Does this project positively benefit our student body as a whole? Does this project create a positive for attracting and keeping student athletes? Does an institution of this stature deserve its own athletic facility? And lastly, does this project truly negatively impact the city of Fullerton? I believe you each know the answer to these questions. I implore you to do the right thing for this institution and the majority as a whole. Don't cave. Let's show our constituents of today and tomorrow that this voting body did the right thing. Sincerely, Jeff Malstead, once a Hornet, always a Hornet.
Again, please no applause. Eric Campbell and Robert Benson.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak this evening. I am an associate professor of physical education at Fullerton College. I am also the head football coach at Fullerton College. I'm also in a very unique position for the position that I do hold. In 1982, my dad was hired by Sherbeck as a football coach and adjunct instructor. So I've been around this football program for a long, long time. And not once have I ever seen a home football contest, which I hope eventually we do see. I've read the EIR, and there was something that really stood out to me. There was actually a couple things. First of all, with regards to the lighting, I'm in a unique position. I used to be the head football coach at Illinois College. We went through a very similar situation to this, where we had lights for our field, actually had Musco lights, and they were unbelievable. The hoods that were on the lights reduced the spillage, and it was very little impact to the community. The second thing, and this one probably impacted me the most, was I read in some of there that this isn't a classroom, and I would disagree with that. This is a classroom. And as the head football coach, and I know there's a number of former Hornets out there, and Jeff Molstead's talk right there can attest to it. These young men, and there are some young ladies that are involved in our football program and other areas, they learn a number of the soft skills that are required in today's world. Let me just kind of briefly touch on a few of those. Teamwork, adaptability, resilience, communication, conflict resolution, problem solving. I think that's extremely critical with our young people and helping them teach them those skills as they move on. As the football coach, obviously I want to help them and make sure they are able to transfer on and do that. This last year we had over 50 student athletes transfer on strictly from the football program. That's over $1 million in athletic scholarships that they have received, something that we take great pride in. I'd just like to leave with this. I think when we look at all this and we look at everything that goes on, and I know a lot of people see a stadium, they see lighting, and they see these aesthetics. I see experiences. I see experiences for our young people. I see experiences for our non-traditional students. I see experiences that are the possibilities that can happen within the physical education realm and the intercollegiate world. So appreciate the time to talk. Thank you very much. Once a Hornet, always a Hornet.
And then Ben Vega.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for allowing us to speak in response to the EIR report. Once I found the link, I read the entire report, which made me kind of an unusual character, I guess, with discretionary time, but I read every page, thought about it, and then, much to my amazement, I discovered my new next-door neighbors had written a letter opposing the improvements to Sherbeck Field. So when I went over to greet them as my new neighbors, the conversation turned that way as well. And I asked them what their problems were, because I want Fullerton College to be good neighbors to some of the people that are going to speak tonight that are my friends, actually. And when I explained from the EIR the changes that had been made in response to public opinion, well expressed by the opponents, my neighbors smiled at me and said, I guess the democratic process works. It was a wonderful conversation with a brand new neighbor. Instead of us having an adversarial relationship, because we shouldn't anyway, we reached a point of understanding. Now, one can interpret the results differently, and I'm sure some of my friends are going to say different things about it from the community, but I feel very strongly that concessions have been made without sacrificing the core principles that are at stake here, as you'll hear from a number of people and have been presented by Dr. Schultz and others as to the objectives for the project. I do want to speak to one thing, which is closing the achievement gap. When I was the Dean of Fine Arts and as a faculty member for 35 years at Fullerton College, that was something we always looked at. How can we help underachieving students do better? And I loved how athletics did that, and I know in fine arts we tried to do that, was to be awakeners of a college education in the eyes and minds of our athletes. And a wonderfully diverse population is recruited and want to be Hornets, just as they want to go to Cyprus with a rich athletic tradition as well. And when they are there, they can avail themselves of tutoring opportunities. We just heard the head coach talk about the scholarships that were won. But I'm going to tell you that Coach Sherbeck established a tradition of meeting with every single player at the end of every single season to say, what are you doing next? And I think that's the spirit of the coaches at Fullerton College and at Cyprus as well. It's not about the outcomes of games, it's about the outcomes in life. And I'd like to conclude by just reading, a friend of mine sent a letter. He's sorry he can't be here. He's in Las Vegas, he's sick. He was the 1999 NFL Coach of the Year while coaching the New York Giants. He also coached for the Ravens, played for the Bears, recruited John Elway at Stanford. His name is Jim Fossil, and he writes, I played quarterback for Fullerton College Hornet football from 1966 and 1967, was privileged to be a member of the national championship team in that second year. Because Fullerton College played such a pivotal role in my life, and because Coach Sherbeck was my lifelong mentor, I'm writing in support of the merits of the proposal to make the necessary improvements to Sherbeck Field to meet NCAA requirements as a home football field facility. I believe in the power of sports to transform lives, and I'm a living example of that philosophy. Please, Board of Education, Board of Trustees, approve the current proposal. And so I ask you to take a hard look at it and recognize this is a report that's responsive to our community, and I know you're interested in hearing from them tonight as well, as I am too. Thank you.
Followed by Gina Bevick.
I have a stack of letters for people who can't be here today. My name is Ben Vega. I'm a proud alum, and I support the licensees on the Sherbeck Field. I'm familiar with the concerns of the local residents. I'm unique because I lived at the Hillcrest Apartments when I was going to Fullerton College. Berkeley was right outside my window. I heard Fullerton High School Stadium. I heard the traffic in the cars when there were games, and I didn't feel any inconvenience. I remember walking over to Fullerton High School for all our home games. Guys sprained their ankles. We have players driving out of the way to play in game sites. What happens when 100 football players cross the street to Fullerton High School? If you want to back up traffic, that's a really good way to do it. Football, there's 5 football games a year, and if 500 to 1,000 people attend home games, then how can this be a concern for traffic and noise? Thousands attend Fullerton College every day. I read that 80% of the football players are not from the local areas, and I take that meaning that we don't care. The school gets a premium from students that are from out of the state, which equal more money for the school and less taxes for the residents. The state is projecting major enrollment decline. School marketing spends money on getting potential Fullerton College students on campus. There's nothing better than football games on your own campus and bringing in people. Many adults and seniors will be able to take advantage of fitness classes because of the lights on Sherbeck Field. If Sherbeck Field is complete, I'm sure if you've run the numbers, the field would free up for other departments, reduce the graduation busing costs, which in turn keeps taxes down for the Fullerton taxpayers. Lights equals more classes, equals enrollment revenue. It also makes it safer for the environment for public use. Lights from the Sherbeck field will also keep away crime, homelessness on the streets across from the school, which will help all the residents. Surveillance cameras and parking lots will keep the area safer, benefits the residents and the students. I hope the needs of all the students and the administrators are truly taken into consideration when making a decision for lights and seating on the Sherbeck field. Trust the FC administrators to manage the school properly. They always have. Thank you very much.
Okay, board, that's been 20 minutes. I suggest that we extend for another 20 minutes. Okay, consensus to do that. Sherbeck, followed by Rich Williams.
Good evening, Board of Trustees of the North Orange County Community College District. My name is Jana Bevick. I'm a professor of physical education, the first female women's track and field coach hired at Fullerton College over 26 years ago, as well as the head cross-country coach. Out of high school, I wanted to come to Fullerton College because of the outstanding tradition with academics and athletics, and sports, of course. Fullerton College has established and nurtured me to become the person I am today, and I'm proud to say I'm a product of the community college system, alumni 1984-1985. When we first passed the bond measure, I was one of the many coaches talking on the phone with the voters saying that this bond money would improve our facilities. The thousands of voters helped us pass the bond, and we promised them an improved facility. Let's stand by our words we promised to our voters and complete this project. I am one of the many coaches that struggle with this incomplete project with Sherbeck Field. I'm out there every day in my classroom, take pride in that facility, and always a very good neighbor with a very happy face. I used to teach classes in the evening, but no lights and seating, that makes it impossible to have a safe environment in a classroom setting. But I look around and into the rooms of Fullerton College, and every classroom on campus has lights and seating, except my classroom. I was promised that this facility would be put back the way it was before. We had seats and lighting many years ago. The technology today, as we heard, would enhance our classroom and offer more opportunities with classes for our students. We're doing a disservice to our students and student athletes by not completing this project. I get endless questions: when will the lights and seats come in? I do not have a place for my students to sit, and they should not have to sit on the ground. We do not ask our patrons to bring a folding chair and a flashlight to see one of our outstanding plays at our campus theater. Why is this classroom, Sherbeck Field, any different in that regard? Our students and student athletes deserve to have this classroom completed with seats and lights, just like every other classroom on the Fullerton College campus. Safety first has been my motto in this classroom, and I want the best for our students with a completed facility. I hope I can have each of your support to finish the project with the Sherbeck Field facility. I appreciate your time listening to me.
Thank you. Rich Williams, followed by Victor Williams.
How y'all doing? Rich Williams, played at Fullerton College 33 pounds ago. So before the next 33 pounds comes about, please get a statement back, okay? I remember as a kid growing up playing football at Lions Field just over the hill, and I went to Fullerton High School afterward, but I remember going down from Pop Warner and hearing my dad, who didn't know much about football, saying, "That's the great Hal Sherbeck. That's a great Fullerton." I cried just thinking about that, because I remember being in high school and being sought by several schools furthering my playing football at their university. And I purposely did not throw the ball well, because I didn't want the pressure of going there. I already knew I wanted to be a Hornet. Because as the saying goes, once a Hornet, always a Hornet. Now, come on, what school says that? Now, they're obviously not Hornets, that's why they don't. But the point is that it was driven in our brains as young kids. It was not just football. It was learning from these great men, teaching us very important values of life. This stadium, I believe, is no different for the current coaching staff. In fact, the current head coach was our ball boy. when I play. When I look at the students over there, I think, gosh, I'm getting old. This has to get done, like yesterday, because it's important, not just for us as players, but for the community involved. I really believe it's like an argument with your wife. You know, I'm always right. Right? So the stadium, we're right. It has to get done. I think beyond all the other things that were mentioned, it's just the common sense, the heart value, what it does to young kids to further their belief in themselves. I didn't hear, I think it was $1 million in scholarships. That's unbelievable. So all the other factors involved, I think they're minute compared to the overall value that the stadium could bring. Thank you.
Victor Williams, followed by Mary Frances Gable.
Dear board members, I'm Victor Williams. I was the one coughing that whole time. Class of 1988, I also played quarterback for House Sherbeck. I grew up 1 mile south of Fullerton College. Now live 1 mile north of it. I was 5 years old when I first heard the name House Sherbeck. When I decided to play football at Fullerton College and attended my first team meeting and practice, winning was in the air. We knew we were becoming part of the winningest junior college football program in the nation. Heading into our first scrimmage, hosting another school, was the first time I remember thinking, this is odd. We're the winningest football program in the nation, yet we have to walk across campus parking lots and a 4-lane street to reach our game field. Thank God Coach Sherbeck rolled with things and stayed focused on leading a professionally run football program. Without it, I didn't stand a chance of developing into a competitive scholarship college quarterback, an honor roll student, and certainly would not have graduated from college. Today, you will listen to or already heard different reasons why we know it is best to install the bleachers and lights at Sherbeck Field. I will take a different approach. Please consider these words when making your decision. Progress, relevance, competitive recruiting edge, community pride, memoriam, and finally, mission accomplished. I hope these words inspire you to do the right thing for the benefit of future Hornets these next 100 years. In closing, I ask you to take this to heart. Perhaps when you've reflected on past achievements, you came to a realization that nobody loved it more than me. You ever done that? I've done that. You look back on whether it was a school project or a sporting event, you look back and go, man, nobody loved it better than I did. Well, that saying just isn't true in this case. Thousands of current and former Hornets and staff love this school and its athletic program just as much, if not more, than I do. I would like to think of the plan to complete the Sherbeck Field project as a memorial in honor of our beloved Coach Sherbeck, one of America's finest coaches in the history of sport, a legend whom we feel privileged to be associated, and ultimately to help put the finishing touches on one of the most beautiful college campuses in the U.S. Once a Hornet, always a Hornet.
Mary Frances Gable, followed by John.
Is there a timer that I can see or no? Okay. At the board meeting on October 24th, 2017, I referred to the Orange County Grand Jury Report, which specifies community college board members' duties as to protect and promote the entire community college district, to ensure that the public's money is spent responsibly, and to operate for the benefit of the general public. When I addressed the board on October 27th of this year, I referred to Fullerton College's class wait lists, demonstrating that there was no need for night PE classes because the only waitlisted class that takes place on Sherbeck Field still had 2 open sections. Also at that meeting, I watched as board members discussed for 35 minutes whether the board has the right to codify use restrictions for Sherbeck Field. During that discussion, board member Bent said, I would like to see a provision that allows for some sort of exception to be agendized for a board vote for rare exceptions, because that way it was agendized for approval and then take a vote. I want the public to see that there's a process that could be implemented on a case-by-case basis. A case-by-case basis? This is the problem. Not codifying use restrictions leaves open every option if it's deemed an emergency. And is it a real emergency if there's enough time for the Board of Trustees to agendize an item, notifying the neighbors so that we can weigh in? Besides, we have weighed in. For over 10 years now, the board has not listened to our concerns, as evidenced by the last scoping meeting at the Bronwyn Dodson Theater when community members were drowned out by music. That was May 1st, 2018. Not to mention that I have been coming here, Mary Frances Gable has been coming here for over 10 years, 300 signatures the first time when the stadium was 2,000 seats. Now 570 signatures with a 4,417 seat stadium, and you guys don't seem to care. You don't care what your constituents say. You don't seem to care what the city of Fullerton says. You don't seem to care what the students really need. You want your stadium. I want to say this one last thing. Also, at that August 27th board meeting, Trustee Dunshee said, "We certainly want to soothe concerns that have consistently been expressed by community members." I think that's important. Yes, that is important. If you want to stop these community concerns, if you want them soothed, then stop this project before you waste any more money on it. Work out an agreement with the district across the street. Preserve your reputations and your dignity and the stature of this school as an honorable institution worthy of community support.
Good evening. I'm not feeling very well tonight, so I'm going to keep it really brief. My husband is at home dealing with family emergencies. He was going to come speak after. Can you hear me? Hold the microphone up just a minute. I've lived within a few hundred feet of the Fullerton campus for 30-something years. And I've heard a lot of people speaking, and probably they've given you their letters of the impact on their lives of the stadium being built, or the field, or whatever it's called. I believe that they are more than 1 mile away from there. It's not really going to impact their lives. It's not in their backyard. It is in my backyard. I bought the house there knowing I was next to a educational institution. Well aware of that. That's why we bought there. Many of our children attended that school, went on to become teachers. So yeah, we love the educational field there. We don't want a stadium in our backyard. The impact for us is not just the trash. We deal with that all the time. It's the safety impact. Our streets are small, 1 car at a time up and down those streets, because of parking situations. Our streets are very narrow. That's the biggest impact to me, is the safety of the traffic. And the traffic study that they showed, I didn't see where, and maybe it's my bad, I didn't see where they showed where Brookdale and Berkeley meet. That is a huge Frogger game, if anybody knows. When you're trying to cross the street there, and many kids do, many athletes do, you can make it to the suicide lane, usually safely. It's very difficult to cross that street. I thought it was going to help out when they made Berkeley 1 lane each way. I think it almost made it worse, because you have parking on both sides. You have a suicide lane, 1 lane going each way, and you've got somebody trying to cross there, ran it illegally. It's very difficult. So bringing in the stadium and more crowds, more traffic is going to put traffic on my street, more on Berkeley. That's my biggest thing, is the safety. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Tanya McCrory, followed by Clay Getchie.
Oh, okay.
Good evening, my name is Tanya McCrory. I'm a Fullerton resident. I started my college career at San Francisco Community College. It was incredible. and I went on to UCLA and then received a master's in Europe. So I value education. It means a lot to me. I love living across from college. I also had a long career as a dancer and choreographer, and 6 months ago, I haven't danced in a really long time, but I decided I wanted to take a class, so I signed up at Fullerton College, and I looked up at your catalog, and it said that you had 3 modern dance classes, beginning, intermediate, and advanced. I was delighted to see that. Unfortunately, when I got there, I thought, and it also said that they were all at the same time, and I thought, oh my goodness, they must have 3 dance studios. But no, you don't have 3 dance studios. There was a very unkept, dirty gym, and all 3 classes were put into one. So the beginning dancer was taking class with the advanced dancer. Imagine putting someone who's learning, adding in someone who's learning geometry. So, you know, I'd really like to see the $6 million go to providing the classes that you actually have in your catalog. I mean, it's to the point where it almost seems fraudulent to say that you have 3 classes and they're smushed into one, and there was no distinction by the teacher to teach a beginning, intermediate, or advanced. So you might have people transferring, but not out of the dance department. No one's going from the community college to UCLA from that dance department, let me tell you that. Anyway, also I just want to say that we were never opposed to the home team playing their football games there. Never. I want to see this college grow. We were never opposed to improvements. And if the college, President Schultz, if you had ever once asked for a meeting with the community, ever, you would have known that. But you never did. And you've become affectionately known as the anti-community college. You are anti-community. Not once did the college ask us. It would have gone so far, hey, how can we make this work? We would have been happy to give input. We want to see you grow. There are ways to do this that benefit everybody. And to the lady from the EIR report who said that 4,000 people coming to an event versus 2,000 will make no significant difference, that is absolutely absurd. And I think we can all agree on that. When double the amount of people come in cars, that's double the traffic and double the noise. So as far as I'm concerned, that just goes to prove that the EIR is a fluffed up, overpriced, waste of money, snow job to give you permission to do exactly what you want to do. I beg of you, Fullerton College will not listen to any kind of compromise. I beg of you, I'm done. Please do not ignore the significant and unavoidable impacts that this will have. Do something that's good for all of us, for the team, for the community, and for the city. Thank you.
Getty, followed by Sophia Dickinson.
Thank you. I always thought Sherbeck Field was a project like any other where this board tries to balance the impact of the surrounding community against the needs of Fullerton College. But as I read the changes to the final EIR, I realized it's quite different. You did add meaningful changes to lessen the impact of the surrounding community, and I thank you for that. I appreciate the initiative that President Brown showed, Chancellor Marshall, President Schultz, and Mr. Garcia. You should be commended for that. That should not be lost. Yet the EIR still has deficiencies. The lights will stay on very late most weekdays. I get it. If you remove that, you can't have PE classes late at night. But you don't need PE classes late at night. PE classes are open across the entire Fullerton College schedule. There's no impact in there. This is solely to maintain the legal fiction of Sherbeck Field as a classroom. Legally, the amended project objectives still have CEQA violations, and alternatives still are not adequately addressed. Critically, this project won't meet any district strategic direction in violation of this board's own policies, and it offends the CCC's vision for success. Why weren't these problems fixed? Ultimately, because that would highlight that the needs of Fullerton College just don't exist here. This is a vanity project. If it weren't, and the project met legitimate needs, these deficiencies would evaporate with the changes. More than anything else you do in office, this project will define the legacy of every one of you on this board and in this administration for years to come. What will that legacy be? Let me try to give a voice to some of your constituents, the Fullerton College community. You'll have an impressive stadium that will never be filled anywhere near capacity except one time a year at commencement. The 91 football players certainly have been heard, even though fewer than 50 will ever see the field again because they're going back home to their home state. What about the other 25,000 in your constituency? This project is not funded with Measure J or even capital funds, but operational savings that have no restrictions how they can be used. So who could benefit instead of the 91 football players? Let me draw inspiration from your own publications and reports. It could be the teacher walking to his car for the last time because he's just been laid off or offered early retirement to save cost. The student in her 5th, 6th, or 7th semester because there weren't enough STEM classes for her to finish on time. A returning student running to his second job because he can't get a grant to pay the nearly $7,000 shortfall that the average student faces every year. The single mother giving up her dream of a college degree because she can't juggle a family and education. Each one of these people is part of the Fullerton College community that you were elected to serve. And you're turning your back on every one of them and countless others if you cast your vote to build this unnecessary project instead of helping them fulfill their dreams. Thank you.
The additional 20 minutes, I think if we did 10 minutes, we can get to the part. Is that acceptable to everyone? All right. So we have Sophia Dickinson, followed by Desi St. Amant.
Hello, my name is Sophia Dickinson, and I'm a sophomore here at Fullerton College, as well as a student ambassador for the campus. One of the concerns that has been brought up is that rather than investing in this field, we should take the money and invest it back into our students. As an ambassador, I often do campus tours for interested ones, whether they're still in high school, elementary, junior high, if they're coming back to college after taking some time off, or if they are a single family, whatever the circumstance is. I also go out to outreach programs for college fairs and talk to interested students. When students express concerns about paying for tuition, parking permits, textbooks, about where to get food, we have a food pantry, about any concerns about paying for anything or even academic-wise, we show them the different programs that our campus offers that are for financial aid as well as different support issues, such as Pledge, EOPS, Promise Care, and many more that I don't have time to list. Such programs can offer help with tuition, help with paying for textbooks, as well as giving cheaper discounts for the parking permits. They also offer tutoring and counseling appointments. But if students don't qualify that, we also have a tutoring center, a writing center, and a math lab. If there's a class that any student has a struggle with, there's an opportunity for help that we provide for them free that is included in their tuition. More program-specific options such as the Teacher Pathway Program and our different career technology programs offer up-to-date technology that is seen when they enter in that field. And I just want to really quick mention our fashion program. And the technology in that program, such as the digitizer and the full body scan, we are one of the only community colleges in California that offers that. Fullerton College has made sure that students are covered academically and financially in more ways than one. They make sure that our voices are heard once a month at a President's Open Forum. They are making sure that we're taken care of, academically and financially. Having an up-to-date football field would be another great thing to highlight about our already great campus, and another great resource for our parents to utilize, whether it's watching a game, taking a class on the field, or to our different sports teams that utilize those. Thank you.
Desi, followed by Jessica Ramirez.
Hi, my name is Desi St. Amant. I've been here a few times. I live right across the street from the proposed stadium. Just want to start with reiterating that we've had a football land in our backyard during practice. That's how close we are, okay? The sports journalist who spoke earlier brought up an important word, home. I'm still waiting to hear which trustee member wishes to have their home next to this stadium. Your silence at this question speaks volumes. I want to remind you that the location for this stadium has been deemed inappropriate twice now by previous authorities. What has changed? The homes haven't moved. Nothing has changed except the tactics that have only sown distrust and animosity. Unlike the coaches and the trustees and the supporters here, I will have no peace and quiet to go home to after a long day of work. Unlike the students-athletes that are here, my kids will have no other bigger and better home to transfer to when the lights spill into their bedroom well past their 7:30 bedtime. And because you insist on having your very own stadium, we residents have no choice in this matter. I represent over 500 households full of voters who do not want this stadium. I represent the kids in our community who will deal with the unavoidable light and noise pollution and suffer all those effects for the sake of this outdoor classroom. Yet we are derided as naysayers for protecting our home, just as anybody here would want to do. Part of Fullerton College's job was to convince the neighboring residents that the claimed benefits far outweigh the legitimate concerns. They have failed to do so. I implore you to seriously consider other alternatives, such as Fullerton High School. I want you to put a sense of community back into the North Orange County Community College District and take the homes of actual Fullerton community members into consideration. Thank you.
Followed by Yolanda Gurron.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. So I'm in favor of the Sherbeck field. One of my first reasons why is because within commencement, there was a lot of people that had a stand, and it's just very unfortunate. It would actually just help overall all the graduating class to have their families actually have a seat. My second reason is also how Fullerton High School and Cal State Fullerton, they do have their own stadium. But I do want to state that we've been here, Fullerton College has been here and has been running since 1912, and we did not have our own stadium. And the reason that it is very beneficial, we were talking and discussed about many PE courses that will be held in the afternoon. One of the benefits of having PE courses that will be held in the afternoon is many students, they work from like 8 in the morning to 5, and sometimes they could only just take like late evening classes, so that would also help out their schedule. And then another thing that I do want to mention is for the home games, it's not even in Fullerton, like Fullerton College, so it would help out all the students that do want to go to the game and support all the football players and just support all of our team. It would help them with transportation to just even go to Fullerton College, so that would be like one of the benefits. And then another is how I do want to say that as a Fullerton College student, I am very proud to be a student. We do have 23,000 students, and I'm very proud to just be one of them. And the reason why is because we are #1 in transferring to Cal State, and also all of our staff and our president and like campus communications, like everyone's extremely great, and I just want to like get that known to like everyone and in the community. And one of the things that the community from Fullerton, they keep saying on and on, is how they don't want this field. But I do want to mention, it's like if you do get a house in by Fullerton College, we've been running since like 1912, you know? So that's just one of the things that I do want to add to that. And another thing overall, I think it would just help and benefit all of our students, not just students that are in like running or like football players. It would also just help the students overall to support their team. Thank you.
No, Yolanda? No. All right. Thank you very much. And at this point, I imagine trustees have some questions. What I'm going to suggest is that we start at the end, just go down one question each, and we'll play around if we need. That way we'll be good, everybody gets a chance. I think that we probably need to do this before we close the public hearing. This is probably properly part of the hearing. Okay, so Jackie, you want to start with a question?
Wait, quick question. So are we closing?
No, I think we'll take our questions, and then when we close the public hearing, that will be the end of this item.
Okay. So, I know there's a photo regarding traffic. And I just had a quick question in terms of the alternative scenario. What was the difference in the impacts of the intersection?
Are you referring to one of the slides in the presentation?
Yes.
We have our traffic expert come to assist, and then we'll move back to that slide, please.
It can be the one, well, it's
Saturday
Field, Saturday Field.
Sure.
Either.
So you're referring to the 2,000 seat alternative, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So under that alternative, there would be the 3 existing plus project Saturday impacts would be eliminated. So intersections 4, 28, and 29 would be eliminated. So the ones around the campus. And that would be the case under 2020 as well. However, under 2030, we would still have an impact at intersection number 12, State College and Chapman. So that would not be eliminated with the reduced alternative. And that would still be considered a direct impact on the project.
Can you repeat the Friday?
So the Friday analysis would also have 1 impact, 3 would get eliminated. The 1 impact that we rebrain would be at Lemon and Fullerton College Drive.
Yeah, also regarding the 2,000 seat alternative, this is in slide 21. It says that project would only partially meet the objective of permanent bleachers for hosting football games. And so I wonder how many people do we, with my understanding that at football games we generally have about 1,400 people, so how is it that the 2,000 seat would only partially meet that objective?
You could, I mean, try to add, can you go to that slide? I want to refer to the slide because we both places.
Okay, so this is where it says it partially meets the following objectives: permanent bleachers for hosting football games and reducing costs for rentals. And so your question is, if the expected attendance on average is 1,400, how does the 2,000 seat not meet that? Well, as one staff member said to me, we don't necessarily plan for today, we plan for the future. And the 1,400 is what is based on past attendance records with no home field here. So it's just based on estimates of attendance at games, but it's not based on games that are held at the college. So the expectation is that if games are held here, more people would come to the games. So it would need a bigger bleacher seating capacity. President Schultz, do you want to add anything to that?
In a similar way to reducing the cost for the rentals, a 2,000 seat alternative decreases the cost compared to the current base scenario, just not as much as the proposed seats.
Can I please say something?
No, the public,
they average 300 people, 300 people. So 1,400 is a room for growth. They average 300 at a game.
Okay.
So 1,400 would be room for growth. Or 2,000.
Okay, Barbara.
I have a question. Currently the games are being played in Yorba Linda, correct?
Yes.
And so we're already under lights and already with traffic of people going to that game. So the environmental impact report, does it talk about reducing the lights and the noise to Yorba Linda? In
No, that's an existing condition, so it doesn't analyze the benefit to the Yorba Linda community, if I'm understanding your question correctly.
Because it would be, it seems to me, you're just moving the noise and lights from one place within our district to another place.
Well, I can't speak to the environmental impact report that would have been done at Yorba Linda when they built their project, but I would imagine that that report would have taken into account the full use of that project. So that's where those impacts are accounted for. Unfortunately, CEQA is not a refined enough tool to give credit for reducing impacts in off-site locations. It's focused on where the proposed project is and the impacts in that environment.
I actually have a question about the sound, but since you're up here, I'll mention that Yorba Linda High School, if anybody hasn't seen it, is surrounded by homes. And I represent that area, and I've actually not heard a single complaint for any football games, but I know that they're impacted obviously by our team playing there. So I would like to ask a question about the sound, and that was it John?
Yes.
John, was there any differences? I'm trying to understand on the sound. I know it's very targeted. It's going to be on the field, but was there any substantial differences between a 2,000 seat, 4,000 seat scenario? Do additional seats help keep the sound in more, or is it just based on how you target it and the decibel limitations in place on it?
It's based on crowd noise predominantly, and the requirements for PA sound level to meet national standards for public safety, and the goals for how loud the public address system should be. Those can be very directional, but it's a sliding scale together. So if you drop people, you can drop the PA, and then overall it's quieter, so on and so forth. You see about a difference about every 500 people. And it's not significant from 500, it's about 1 dB.
All right, that's all I have for sound. I have one for lighting. Oh, next one, are we going to rotate that?
Yes. One question each.
Okay, one question.
Molly.
Okay, my question deals with something in the EIR. In section 2, page 36, that's at the bottom paragraph. And this has to do with lighting. And so it talks about the proposed lighting system to allow Fullerton College to control lights remotely, and curfews will be set up to the control system. And including off and on times, hours of usage, and outages of the LED light fixtures. And it talks about a 4-stage dimming system that would include high, medium, light output, and then no lights off. My house would call that a rheostat. But my question is, maybe somebody knows, does Fullerton College have this capacity in their lighting, their current lighting system?
Do you mean anywhere on campus or specific to athletic facilities?
Specific to the field, their athletic field.
No lights on the field. There's no lights.
Do their lights have the capacity to those 4 levels?
To my knowledge, we don't, and I'm looking for...
There aren't any lights. There's no lights on the field.
Well, not to anywhere, other lights with tennis courts, pool.
Parking structure.
The pool does have the capacity to dim. The pool lights do have the capacity to dim.
Thank you. So the pool lights do have that capacity.
Okay, I'm talking about Fullerton High School. Is Fullerton High School, maybe I missed it. Does Fullerton High School's lights on their field have the level capacity, 4 levels? If you don't know the answer to that, you can answer later.
I have an answer, just in case. Our expert from this school year, I don't know.
I don't know the answer. I can find the answer out, but I don't know it off the top of my head.
Okay. You can research and find an answer.
Okay.
Steve?
We're still okay, well, I want to make a compliment to Dudek. They quite eloquently and comprehensively addressed
addressed the issues of my comments in the EIR that didn't pertain to the environment, the EIR, but I thank them for making the effort in a long, fairly long paragraph, and like I said, comprehensively and eloquently address that issue many times. And my opposition isn't to necessarily the EIR, but to the stadium. Everybody at the resource table and the Board of Trustees received my comments and opposition. So that's all I have to say.
So, I guess I have a question on, is it appropriate to have this? Because we haven't, as a board, we're not at that step to discuss whether or not.
Well, you can read it later.
Are you opposing the EIR?
No.
The project?
Well,
As it stands.
yes and no.
Yeah, that's not being discussed at this point. Okay. You have another question?
Going back to the lights, can you pull back the slide 18? It's a little hard for me to. There is some spillage, correct, based off of.
So it's the slide with the stadium on it?
Yeah. So there, just to clarify, the outline is where we see spillage, the blue line.
On the, you're talking on the little insert photo?
Yes.
Yeah, that
No.
so you can see.
The diagram.
Bear with me. So what you're looking at is a, we call it a blanket grid. So it's just a horizontal foot candle. And that blue line represents where we have 0.0 foot candles. So it's just an iso candle, like a curve, connecting all the dots of where 0.0 is around the stadium. So you'll see inside that there's a 0.2 or a 0.3, or even, you get on the field and it's 40 or 50. So that's all that blue line is representing where it gets to 0.0. Yes.
And the current lighting, not on the field, but near, is that compliant to our athletic, regulations? I know there's no lighting on the fields, but just the regular lighting in the campus, like by the pool, is that compliant?
So you mean, like at the pool, the lighting that exists there and then the test is designed for that purpose, but do you mean if that style of lighting were to be moved to the field with people?
Yeah. Maybe I need to think about my question.
Thank you. I just wonder if someone could please refresh my memory as to the significance of the issue of whether the field is a classroom, and also whether we have a legal opinion.
Amen. Yeah.
Answer the question.
I think that's probably a question for the representative from DUDEC, because that was addressed in the responses to some of the.
Stephen T. can begin to address your question.
Good evening, Trustee LaFayette and the board. My name is Stephen T. and I'm a lawyer with Gasky, Dillon & Balance. I've been retained by the district to assist in guiding the district through this process.
You put the mic up a second.
Thank you so much. And so your question, I believe, is what is the significance of whether the field is a classroom? This is an issue that came up during the public comment period. There were commenting parties in the public who suggested that that is important in the event that the board elects to take an exemption under the government code from local planning authority. there is a provision in the government code, section 53094 to be precise, that includes language about this type of exemption and suggests that the exemption cannot be taken in the context of a non-classroom facility. So that's the significance of the issue. Whether the field, the project that is encompassed by the field and the various improvements that have been discussed tonight constitutes a classroom, that's pretty well established under California appellate authority. There are at least 2 published appellate decisions that address that topic in particular and make clear, at least in the context of football fields in particular with lights and bleachers, that those can and have been characterized as classroom facilities for purposes of the government code, and the Court of Appeal has endorsed that view specifically. There are no contrary authorities, so the board is in good standing with that view. Thank you.
Okay. In the appendix that dealt with the sound, so I think it was appendix 3, it talked about how the measure was based on 25% rock music and then 33% sound from the crowd or something.
Correct.
So I know you mentioned that you use the highest possible denominator. So how does those figures correspond to what is usually a typical sound scenery?
I think if I understand your question correctly, you're asking about how we got to those percentages for, say, an hour's usage of the field?
Somewhat, but then is that just the highest threshold, or is that really what typically will be sound?
So there's published documentation plus previous project work that we have conducted over 70 odd years that shows that sporting events typically break down in a percentage usage of that to where it's a percent of crowd noise, a percent of amplified music, if you will, like a supporting kind of a song after a score of a touchdown or something like that, to show that those things are weighted accurately, because if you were just to put all music, obviously now you're modeling for a rock concert. So that comes from previous projects that have been documented and published under other EIRs, also from work that we have done. It's variable. Every project's a little bit different. Every field usage is a little bit different. Every sporting event is a little bit different. So you have to kind of find what that happy medium is that is both accurate, but then not trying to skirt the issue. So, and those kinds of things, those are pretty well documented over the years as to what those breakdowns are. So we utilize those breakdowns to influence a kind of spectra that is used in that modeling, because human voice does not have the same sort of energy in, say, bass frequencies as, say, music does. Our voices tend to be in mid to higher frequencies, and they travel a different distance, to where music will have much more energy at lower frequencies, and lower frequencies travel much, much further distances. That's why you can be living in an apartment and you can hear your neighbor's bass, but not necessarily your neighbor having a conversation. It's that kind of thing, so we utilize those percentages to be able to utilize the correct kind of energy levels per octave band, so we can model that more accurately. It's extraordinarily scientific, and I don't think I necessarily have the time to go into that. I'm happy to have like a sidebar conversation, but that's what those percentages are basically establishing, is that we took this much of music, this much of crowd, this much of general sport activity, things like that. Yeah, it's very long.
I had another question about the lighting, please. The lighting expert come back up. Okay, my question's two-part question. All right. So my first question is, obviously when you're talking about a football game, and this is what kind of lights are based on, I guess, the highest thing I can imagine is a punt, right? So how does the angles of the lighting affect the visibility of a punt, and does that mean that the lighting pretty much needs to be at the height no matter what the capacity of the field ends up being? Whether it be a 2,000, 4,000, does the lighting still need to be the height that it's shown here to catch up to the other catch up on?
Yeah, when we're doing the lighting design, we model. We know what beam lights are, the beams of light are going to be over the field, so we model that and we make sure that we have enough light to light that aerial sports. The second part of the question was, are you basically saying level of play?
No, so whether it's we're looking at a couple different possible capacities of fields. So if it's a 4,000 capacity versus a 2,000, does it affect the height of the lights?
Only in that if the seating capacity means we have to put poles further away from the field, they could potentially get higher to get that same downward aiming angle.
Okay, and then my other question is about the dimmers, the 4 stages of dims, of dimming. I think that's nice for things like exiting and cleaning and stuff like that, but can you explain to me what those different levels do, if they're safe for, obviously the top level is safe for playing the game. What's the next level, what's the next level, what's the next level, and which ones are okay for exiting safely and walking out of a game versus cleaning the seats and stuff like that? Can you
Right, so when we're lighting bleachers for egress, so let's say there's a power failure and we lose, Edison goes down, these stadiums will be equipped with an emergency backup source. So they want a minimum of 1 foot candle over the bleacher area, and they call it path of egress, to get people safely out of the stadium so they don't stampede each other. So 1 foot candle would be the minimum that the governing authorities allow. On a lot of these projects, what we'll do with the dimming is exactly for that reason. After the game, they can go, let's say, 50-foot candle field, mediums, half the light output, low is about 25% light output, and then you have a blackout mode. So 25-foot candles, you could even go down to 10-foot candles for cleaning or egress, which would be plenty of light. Sometimes we'll have facilities that when they open the facility to the community to come walk at night, they'll put it on low mode because you don't need 50-foot candles on the field to walk the track. You can dim those lights down. The LED light source is really kind of, since it is an instant on, instant off light source, that's where you start to get into the light shows and things like that. So the capabilities are kind of endless with what you can do with the lights now. But as far as the dimming can also be set. It comes out of the factory 150, 25, 0, but that can be field adjusted. So if we came out there and clicked at the low and say, hey, we can go a little bit lower, we can dim those LEDs on site so it's even less light, but we still have that 1 foot candle requirement. But to avoid any type of a liability situation if someone were to fall.
Thank you.
The question that I have, and it seems from reading this, when we're looking at conflicts in terms of scheduling, when we look at alternatives, you don't need to stay here because I don't think this is a question. But Cal State Fullerton, for instance, when you look at scheduling and you look at the scheduling of men's and women's soccer, they pretty well consume the times that Fullerton College would need that space. Even though I'm not getting into costs at this point, but I'm talking about scheduling. Have we had any communication at all from the Fullerton High School District in terms of their scheduling, of their need, and it may not be just Fullerton High School uses that stadium, but it might be some of the other high schools. So do we know what that is? Could we ask them for that information?
Thank you. Yeah, we've been in communication with both Cal State Fullerton and the Fullerton Union High School District and Fullerton High School. What we find is that there's a higher likelihood of having the field be open on Saturdays for football game. Not always, but much higher likelihood than evening during the week. And that's because of the high school, for example. They have marching band and boys and girls soccer, all the things that the high school has. Cal State Fullerton, same, we've explored what would the rental or fee structure be, but mainly what's the availability like. And their primary use is their own intercollegiate classes and routines. As women's soccer is where that's primarily the use of the Cal State Stadium. Then they also, like us at times, rent the field out to other units. In their case, what we learned was they do rent it at times of the year to professional, semi-pro soccer, men's and women's. So I guess to summarize back to your original question, Cal State Fullerton would be a little bit more challenging based on the research to find available space at Fullerton High School.
Fullerton High School has agreed. They want the, they are willing to work with the schedule of Fullerton College, and they don't see conflict. And we've spoken with them, and you are virtually looking at two stadiums literally across the street from each other that could serve as one. So.
Steve, do you have? Yes? No. Barbara?
I think I can also. I mean, the amount of paper and thoroughness of this report is huge, and this doesn't even contain the appendices and things like that. So I think there has been a thorough job of looking at this.
Well, this is the question that was asked that you may not be aware of, the question or the response. And this was prior to the board meeting. In May of 2019, a letter was sent to surrounding neighbors regarding Fullerton College's commencement ceremony on May 25th. That was it. The letter included a number for campus safety regarding any concerns that persons near the college might have. And the question that was asked was, did the college or the campus safety receive any calls regarding negative impacts? And I don't know if somebody wants to share that response.
I'll do that. We did not receive any calls regarding any negative impacts for the commencement. You're asking about the commencement in particular. We did receive some positive comments, both verbally and in writing, recognizing the advance notice and the communication with the neighbors. Just basically thanking the college for being courteous in that way. If you're going to have a large event like commencement, we received some positive feedback about communicating in advance.
Last chance for any final ones? Okay. Do we have a motion to close the public hearing? So moved. Second.
Second.
Okay. All in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you for everyone who came. You're welcome to stay. Moving ahead. Item 5C. Receiving this information. I'd like to lead the Sacramento College Professional Development Program.
That's right. That
The human trafficking